DFS season is here, and I'm going to spill the secrets on how I won over $50,000 last year drafting Battle Royale teams on Underdog during the season. If you aren't familiar, Battle Royale drafts are like best ball drafting meets DFS, but instead of 18 lineup spots, you only have 6, and you're drafting a team just for the week instead of the whole season. The drafts are super quick and remind me of that old adage from poker. It takes just a few minutes to learn, but a lifetime to master. If you've struggled recently to find success playing salary cap DFS on DraftKings like me, then the draft games are the place for you. I went from being a break-even player on DraftKings to having my best year ever on Underdog. That's because there's still huge edges to be found on Underdog because the game is still relatively young. And today I'm going to share a handful of those strategies with you that helped me crush in 2024. Number 1, when you draft matters. A weekly Battle Royale contest typically drops on a Monday morning, which means there's almost 6 full days to draft before the contest locks on Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern when that first wave of games kicks off. Similar to best ball, there are pros and cons to both drafting early and drafting late. I personally prefer to backload nearly 100% of my drafts on Saturday and Sunday. This served me extremely well in week 4 of the 2024 season when I placed 2 teams in the top 10 of the large field Battle Royale for $8,750 in winnings. Both of these teams featured Jordan Love to Jaden Reed stacks. This was notable because Jordan Love was on the injury report as a limited participant for the entire week leading up to their week 4 game versus the Vikings. Thanks to a questionable tag, Love was hardly getting drafted throughout the week. He closed with an ADP of 35.7, which means he was being drafted less than 5% of the time, aka only once every 20 drafts. Similarly, his wide receiver Jaden Reed, who had an ADP of 33.4, was also not getting drafted much due to the uncertainty around Love. However, positive news emerged overnight from Saturday into Sunday that Love was actually likely to play. I immediately made Love a big priority for my final drafts, knowing he would be on very few rosters that week. That unique Love-Reed duo ended up combining for 54.76 points, and that stack was featured on 5 of the top 7 teams in the contest, including the first place team that took down the $30,000 top prize. These opportunities won't present themselves every week, but when they do, it's important to capitalize on them. The takeaway here is always ask yourself on a Sunday, what teams, what players can I draft now that early week drafters wouldn't have been able to draft? You have an information advantage on them and you need to push it. That said, there are some big advantages to drafting early. In our recently launched Underdog DFS Masterclass, Nez from the Badge Bros explains the benefits of drafting early, specific in the 12-man contest like the Goal Line Stand and the Dog Bowl, where Nez has previously qualified himself. Within the course, there are 2 chapters and a roundtable specifically on how to adjust strategies for the larger contests where 72 players are drafted instead of 36. And I realize I'm getting ahead of myself. If you're just hearing about the course for the first time right now, I combined forces with 2 of the best players on the site, Nez and Roto Run, aka John from the Badge Bros, and we shared all of our strategies for becoming a profitable player on Underdog. 19 chapters, 10 plus hours of roundtable discussions, data insights on what the field did in 2024. Whether you're brand new to the Underdog draft games or just chasing your first big score, this masterclass from 3 proven winners with over $300,000 in NFL profits will give you the edge to draft sharper and profit long-term. Visit underdogmasterclass.com today and start winning. Number 2, the trick to correlation. Speaking of profit, in week 5 last year, I finished first in the $100 5 max contest to bomb for $6,000 in winnings. And how I did it was relatively simple. I leaned into correlation. As you can see here, my winning lineup featured 4 players from the same game, including a Joe Burrow double stack with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, plus a Baltimore bringback with Zay Flowers. The trio of Bengals combined for an eye-popping 95.88 points, while Flowers chipped in 15.5 points himself. Despite having 6 players on this lineup, this team only had to get 3 things right instead of 6. Those 3 things. Bengals and Raven games goes Burr. It was a 41-48 overtime game. Kyron Williams just has a good game, 15 points. George Kittle, my tight end, just has a good game, 16.4 points. Those were the only 3 things I needed to get right. Here's the wild part though. this team would have only finished in 39th place in the large field battle royale for $500. So the same team, different contest, but $5,500 difference in winnings. That's because when it comes to correlation, contest size matters. The Bomb was a small field contest with only 444 entries, while the main Battle Royale contest had almost 68,000 entries that week. So while I was able to win with a Flowers bring back, which is really leaning into the correlation, not only a main stack, but a bring back on the opposing team, the winning team in the Battle Royale, who had the same Burrow stack as me, used Brian Thomas, a one-off player from another game who scored 20.7 points as their flex instead of Flowers. So that means Thomas scored 5.2 more points than Flowers, and there was no way I could have ever won that tournament with that big of a game stack. The takeaway here is that we don't actually want to be correlating too much in the large field battle royale contests. In the masterclass course, we dive into what top 1% of lineups looked like in 2024, and the results are truly surprising. Once you see the data for yourself, you'll instantly realize how critical it is to shake stacking brain in the larger contests. Ultimately, we need to calibrate how much correlation we utilize based on the contest size. The smaller the contest, the more viable it is to load up on multiple players from the same team or game. But the bigger the contest gets, the more we need to aim for perfection, and it's hard to get too high-end ceiling scores from teammates. I should also mention in the course, we have breakdowns on how to stack specific quarterbacks because not all quarterbacks are created equally. A quarterback like Joe Burrow can often support a double stack in a tournament because he doesn't run a ton. But some of the other more elite quarterbacks who gain their value on the ground don't need to be stacked at all. And we dive into specific stacking analysis based on quarterback archetype in the course. But to illustrate this idea of it being hard to get ceiling scores from two teammates, check out this example from the course looking at Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts' ceiling games from last year. They were almost entirely uncorrelated. When Barkley went off, Hurts didn't. When Hurts went off, Barkley didn't. In a small contest, using Barkley and Hurts together could work. And that's exactly what happened when I won the victory formation contest in week 3 for $1,000. It's a small field single entry tournament. And on this team, Barkley scored 31.6 points and Hurts scored, wait for it, 11.94 points. And I was still able to win because the correlation also put me on tight end Dallas Goedert in this lineup. But similar to the DeBomb example, if I had drafted this exact same team in the week 3 Battle Royale contest with 67,992 entries, it would have finished in sad trombone 253rd place for only $35. If you'd like to get access to all of the 2024 winning lineup data and our analysis on how it should be applied in 2025, use promo code YouTube when you check out for 20% off the course at underdogmasterclass.com. This discount, we're going to do this just for this opening launch week. It will go away when the season starts, so take advantage of that now. Promo code YouTube at underdogmasterclass.com for 20% off. I should also mention, we also have an entire section on contest selection and bankroll management with concrete recommendations on which contest you should play if you're just starting out so you can enjoy success early and build that bankroll. Let's get to the final team that I want to show you guys, which happened to be my biggest score from 2024. In week 9, I placed a team in second place of the big battle royale for $20,000, and it featured a Geno Smith to JSN stack, 2 high-end running backs, Brock Bowers and Zay Flowers. And coincidentally, that team was drafted on camera for a video I posted on this channel. And it illustrates 2 key components we dive into in the course surrounding how to get unique in drafts. Because just drafting off ADP is going to yield average results. And on this team, I was able to get unique in 2 different ways. Once at the start of the draft by scooping ADP values, and then at the end of the draft by scrolling down for players who weren't getting drafted in every lineup. In rounds 1 and 2, I happily scooped up Alvin Kamara. He had an ADP of 3.3, but fell to me at pick 5. And then Derrick Henry. He had an ADP of 7, and he fell to me to pick 8. I knew that these two would be a relatively unique pairing because pick 3 ADP lines up with pick 10 ADP in round 2, and pick 7 ADP lines up with pick 6 or pick 5. And so when having an ADP of 3 and an ADP of 7 together, that's just hard to pull off in most drafts. So anytime I'm able to get two of the elite plays on the slate on the same team, I jump at the opportunity, especially when they aren't often paired together. And as far as getting unique, there are 3 different ways to get unique, but to me, this is the ultimate way to do it because you can have your cake and eat it too without sacrificing any projected points for uniqueness. That said, this dynamic completely switches at the end of the draft, at which point the players who go in rounds 5 and 6, they're drafted 100% of the time, but they don't project that much differently than the players who regularly go undrafted. This is the point of the draft where we want to consider scrolling down for low-owned gems. In the course, we provide a handy graphic so you can easily see what ownership certain ADPs translate to. On this team, I finished the draft with a low-owned Geno Smith to Jackson Smith and Jigba stack. They had ADPs of 35.2 and 35.8, which meant JSN and Geno were rarely getting drafted together on this slate. Getting the correlated benefits of a stack along with 2 unique pieces to differentiate a lineup from the field is one of my favorite levers to pull in the BR contests. The final piece on this roster, though, is arguably the most interesting. It was a swap from DK Metcalf, who I initially drafted but ended up not playing, to Zay Flowers, who then went off for a large score. The beauty about these games on Underdog is you will never take a 0 on a player who is questionable but is later ruled out. You get to swap either to the best available player, not drafted in that draft room, and the system will do that for you, or to the top player in your personal rankings, which you can set on your own. Leveraging these swap dynamics is one of the biggest edges on Underdog, and we have an entire chapter on how to do so successfully in the masterclass at underdogmasterclass.com. Good luck this year, everybody. Happy drafting. And like I said, join us over at underdogmasterclass.com this year. It's also where I'll be sharing my weekly low-owned gems this year instead of in weekly videos here. And we'll be adding to the course as the season progresses, metas change, strategies update. It's a living, breathing thing. John Nez and I have been hard at work on this. I think you guys are going to love it. So join us over there, and we'll see you at the top of the leaderboard.